Hey guys, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My name is DeLady Designer, and we are back with another episode of our city zoo. And in this episode, we're going to build a king penguin habitat. Not because we didn't make a habitat yet, but I just really love to build habitats for these animals. But I do have to say, I really wanted to upload more videos this week. But since I think it was Wednesday, I had some kind of creative block and I really had issues with creating anything. I tried to do something for the Cayman, but it really didn't work out for some reason. And never before in the whole time I'm playing Planet Zoo, never before, I actually for 2 times in a row started something and was in for like half an hour or an hour, and I actually deleted what I did. And that was kind of frustrating. But yeah, so I am already happy that I have an episode ready right now. And I'm actually really happy with the end result. But I did not really see it coming that my creativity would come back anytime soon. It took me a few days, but thank God we are back building. And yeah, as I said, I'm really happy with this one, so let's go and talk about the video. So what you're going to see is me, creating a hole for the water section, and obviously an underwater viewing gallery. But the underwater viewing gallery will not be as deep as you see it right now. I only took this to make sure that it was deep enough to use the underwater feeders. I think it's like 5 meters deep or anything, so I had to lowered the underwater feeders into the ground a little bit, but they do still work if you do that, so that is really nice. So I wanted to have an underwater viewing gallery with the complete width of the habitat. I hope I say that right. So I really had something in my mind that I was like, I wanted to make sure that where the guests stand, they have this clear view of a part of the underwater section, but they can also still look into the habitat and also see the animals swim with their heads above the water. So it should be the exact right height. And in order to do that, because the water is only going into 1 meter steps, so you really need to make sure to check where the water ends and then measure it out. So I took the 2 meter wall and try to see like, okay, what is like 1.5 meter? At least that makes sure for your adults that they are still able to look into the habitat above the water. And that is how I measured it out and made sure that I used the path system to get it the exact right height for it. And if you guys want to know how I do this, I have a path tutorial and I also have an underwater viewing tutorial. I have several underwater viewing tutorials, so definitely go and check those on out. If you have no idea how I created this and what kind of keys I use for it, definitely go and check those tutorials out, because I'm pretty sure with all those tips and tricks you can do the exact same thing as I'm doing. So yeah, but the water right now from the path is 1.5 meter above the path, but obviously it's still deep enough for the animals to dive, because obviously we want those penguins to dive and that it looks just fantastic for a guest to stand on whatever layer they want to be. So they have 2 different areas where they can stand. They can look straight into the water or from the water level itself. So I think that looks just really cool. And what I do really notice is that I think building in Planet Zoo, I think it's definitely the key to try and create something smaller than you envision it the first time. At least for me, whenever I try to build a habitat, it always looks way too big. And still the habitat itself looks too big, but especially when you look at the water section, which is actually just wide enough, like 4 meter wide enough for the animals to still dive. But you can really have advantage with this, with like the water being clear and also just making it feel more realistic in that case. But the upper area is still way bigger for the penguins than it should be, but I don't really mind that. But especially for these water sections, if you compare this one with the gray seal habitat we did, that one was humongous, like really, really big. And if you looked into the water, it was so deep and so far away that the water just becomes very unclear. So I think using this technique, what I'm doing right now, and just really make sure that you only have like a 4x4x4 meter roof tile, and you make sure that that is like the edge of your water, or make it a little bit wider. I think that works really well for these type of underwater viewing galleries. So that is a tip I am giving you because of this build. So hopefully it will be useful. So obviously on the upper layer, you have 2 different path sections, and I really wanted to make sure that there was one path that is going to be free from guests standing still, because there's also going to be a restaurant on the other side. So that's why there are more layers with paths next to each other, to really make sure that whenever it gets too busy, that there are not going to be any issues on the path from one side to the other side. And obviously, as you can tell of this video, I used a lot of the new rocks. Well, I don't have to tell you guys how much I love the rocks. I think that is definitely clear already from all my previous videos, but I definitely do feel that this may also be a reason why I was having a little bit of a creative block, because I was constantly thinking like, but with the new rocks and I still want to try to stay in the same style, and how do I do that? And it's actually really hard to do that because it just really feels different. And at some point I just had to let that go, I guess, and just go and have fun, and don't really mind too much of that it may not fit in the area too much. I think at the end of the day, I will just try to get back to the Land of the Cold area where this is, and just see if I'm able to replace a lot of the rocks with the new rock set. So I think if I do that, I think everything will just fit more in my imagination, and it will just look better, and I'm more satisfied with it. So yeah, I think that is the way to go for me, because as I mentioned in the previous episodes, I sometimes feel like I just want to start a new zoo, but City Zoo is definitely my most precious zoo of all the zoos I've built so far. So I just really don't want to go, and that is what was kind of bugging me and struggling. But yeah, I'm really happy that for some reason I just went for it, and I was just like, okay, just let go of any frustrations of that it may not fit in. I just need to let that go and just build whatever you want to build. So yeah, it really did work out. So for the penguins, I wanted to make sure that they have this staircase from the middle section going into the water. I did not really bother of the rest of the water section, and that they were not able to go from the rocks into the water. So only the stairs is meant for the penguins to go into the water section, and then they can go left or right for 2 underwater feeders to really show their diving animations and diving tricks, of course. And on the upper layer, I did not do too crazy things like we did with the other penguin habitat we just built. But I obviously gave them a cave because this is an outdoor habitat, and they definitely do need a cave in this section, especially with some types of weather they don't really like, or when it's too hot, maybe they just want to go into some shade instead of the water to cool down. So yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that they have this cave section. And on the other sides of the habitat, they have 2 raised areas where they can also just chill, and there is some kind of, I think the bubble enrichment item is on one side, and on the other side I have a sprinkler to make sure that they are able, or they will be walking more to those sections. And of course we have a big plate feeder for the penguins so they can get fed. I'm not really sure yet if I need to add more of them. That really depends. I was fooling around a little bit with the other penguin habitat we did, and I put down a lot of the small feeders, and for some reason they still did not fill everything up, and I really wanted to make sure that that was like some kind of attracting point for the penguins to go to. But I still need to figure out like how many feeders do you really need for how many penguins. I'm not quite sure about that just yet. So right now we only have 1 feeder underneath the ground, a little bit hidden away under the rocks, that is, not really underneath the ground, but hidden away because I just don't really like the complete vibe of it, I guess. But yeah, we might want to add 1 or 2 more in the future. But as I said, we already have 2 feeders underneath the water, so I think that's going to be fine. So as you can see on the backside of the penguin habitat, I'm building more of a very simple wooden wall because I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't all completely rock separating the areas from each other. Because on the other side, there's the lovely, amazing polar bear habitat we built a while ago, inspired by Paradise, a Belgium zoo. And I did not really want to ruin all the vibes of the style that we have on that side. But as I said, I really want to go back to that area a little bit more and see if I can replace some of the rocks to make it feel more like a whole, because I'm a little bit missing that. But I just really wanted to play around with these rocks instead of like the other rocks you have in the base game. So on the sides of the cave, you have a more raised area, as I just said. And there are two sections that the penguins are able to use. One is more like a slide, so more rocks in like an angle, and the other side is more of like a stairs, and you use that technique on both sides to give it still the same style, but then again it still looks a little bit different. But I didn't really go too crazy with this time with the rocks and stuff, but I think it looks definitely cute, and the more penguins we will have, I think it's going to be awesome to see them all separated on different areas on the platforms. I think it's going to look really awesome. And at the end of the habitat build, I started putting down some white rocks because I still wanted to give it a little bit of that snowy feeling to it. So everything right now is still all gray, but at the end I also added some white rocks to really give it more of a snowy feeling. And of course, I also really wanted to use the penguin statues we also got with the Aquatic Pack. I think they look absolutely fantastic. And I did recolor a few of the smaller rocks. I think there's also a blueprint of the penguin statues in the game, but I used that a little bit as inspiration. So on the left side and the right side of the habitat, you will have some of those smaller rocks a little bit recolored with some penguin statues. I think they look absolutely fantastic, so I really do like that. And I think we're going to use this style as we're going for right now a little bit and take it over for the restaurant that is going to be on the other side. So I'm really going to try and blend in the restaurant and the penguin habitat style into each other, so it really feels like it matches, and it has both been built in the same time, and also probably with some more penguin rocks and those kind of things. So I think that's gonna look really nice. But yeah, the platform of the enrichment item where you have like that hole inside of it, you are not really able to use that. So that is really good to mention. If it's like very thin, like I just said, if you used a 4x4 flat roof piece to make sure that your water section is not going to be super big, yeah, well then you're not really able to use that platform with that hole in it, because they really do need more space for that. But I don't really mind. I like the piece, but for myself, I don't really find it super fitting most often in the styles I'm building anyways. I think I only put it down in the seal habitat just because it looks really cool how they use it, but like the way it looks, it does not really feel like it definitely fits in the area. So I'm not really bothered by that, to be honest. But yeah, as I said in the beginning, I'm really happy that I was able to build this habitat for you guys, and I was able to just record something new, because it is just super frustrating. I think many of you know that feeling when you try to build in Planet Zoo and you just have a complete creative block. I have it sometimes, but not as rough as this one, like really deleting things. I never really had that. It mostly came down to like, okay, I just really don't know where to start. And mostly it just helps for me to just continue and start building something, and then something pops up in my head. But this time it just didn't work out as I wanted it to be. But yeah, in the end, I just tried to look at some pictures of penguin habitats, king penguin habitats. And I had this in my mind already, like I wanted to have something with like a big glassy wall with an underwater viewing, but I had no idea how to do it. And at some point I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna start with that underwater viewing and see where it all ends up. And I'm really happy that this really turned out as I wanted it to be. So yeah, I do hope you guys like it and that I can inspire you guys with this new king penguin habitat. Do let me know in the comment section down below, of course. Leave a like at the video if you guys enjoyed, and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And if you want to see more Planet Zoo content, I got tons of it on the channel, so I definitely got you covered. And yeah, as I said, definitely go and check out my tutorials if you're new to Planet Zoo. I really hope that my top 10 tips and tricks is useful. I heard a lot of people saying like, oh my god, I'm playing Planet Zoo for so long and I didn't know this or that. So thank you so much, and for all the new people as well. So definitely highly recommend you guys to watch that one. And yeah, I really just hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye guys!